This is the Recovery Lab.
Here we dive deep into the struggles, victories, and hope that stem from recovery.
No shame, no judgment, just truth, grace, and inspiration.
Let's walk this road together.
Hey guys, welcome back to Recovery Lab. I missed you guys. It's episode 131 and I am Brynn Knox.
I'm David Sugg.
I'm Daniel Anderson.
We are the Recovery Lab. We are here this week with my favorite car, Jay Carr.
Hey.
This is a day that y'all should all be grateful for video. You got two of the most handsome, the three. We'll throw Daniel in there. Seriously, man, thank you so much for coming on.
Oh, I'm happy
One of
to
my
be here.
favorite people of all time.
Thank you.
You and I have got a lot of things in common besides just trying to stay in shape. But
Yeah.
you got quite a story to tell, and you got a lot of things to offer. So we're super excited to have
I'm happy to be here.
and spend
Thank you.
an hour with us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Are you from here?
I grew up in Brandon.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited to get to know you.
You too.
Get to know some of your story. Where does it start for you?
Well, my recovery story started in 2006. I got sober the first time after a 10-year run. You know, I started a little bit late in comparison to some. It was my freshman year in college, and it was Halloween of 1996 where I drank and smoked weed for the first time.
Do you remember what you were dressed up as?
That's what I was about to ask.
No costume. No costume. It was
Okay.
I was at Hines, and in Raymond, we used to call it the oil fields. So we would go party by an oil derrick out in the middle of these soybean fields out in Hines County.
Mississippi thing for sure.
Right.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
100%. And it would get wild out there.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a good time.
Yeah.
That was back when it was fun.
Wasn't it?
Yeah. But it started like from that night on, I was a daily pot smoker, blackout drunk from the get-go.
From the get-go?
I did not ease into it at all. It was
Yeah.
out of the gate, a problem. But again, those days it was fun. That was before it, became, it was out of control then, but I was not aware of that part.
That's hard. That's hard too. That's what's hard about college in those days because
Right.
it's like it's kind of the norm in those days. So you don't know that it's a
Right.
problem basically until you graduate college and everyone else has productive lives.
Exactly. Exactly. And then you start to notice that the people that were your crowd, your running buddies are getting married, actually beginning careers, and you're still figuring out which classes to add and drop, and then the geographic changes and still, in college, but no degree. And it just spiraled from there until 2006, it all hit the fan, and I got into some pretty significant legal trouble and was able to, I didn't get out of it. I had a lot of probation. I was court ordered to rehab and to secondary and then to aftercare and then to 12-step meetings. So it was 5 years of probation. And I completed that on good behavior. I got out in 4. And yeah, the one thing that stands out to me about my first recovery is how easy it was. And when I was living in New York, there was this lady that said to me one time, I got too sober too quick. And I think it took me a long time before, because that's the way it is in recovery is somebody will say something. And for whatever reason, it sticks in your head, right? And then it may be years later and you finally you have this aha moment and it's like, oh,
That's what they were talking about.
that's what she meant. And I think that was sort of a theme of my first recovery, was that it was too quick, too sober. It wasn't a struggle. Like when I came to in Rankin County Jail that morning in February of 2006, the obsession to drink and do all the hard drugs was gone. It was immediate. And to this day, I haven't had a drink. That was 19 years ago. But I still had an obsession with weed. I didn't smoke weed for a long time, but my relapses were with marijuana, not alcohol or drugs or other drugs. But yeah, I had and have discovered over the years in getting sober again that I had a lot of misconceptions about what recovery was. And
Like what?
When I was in secondary, there was this guy at the Rebos Club. Did y'all ever go to that?
Hattiesburg? Old Smoky Dungeon?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, the smoking meeting, right? Yeah. And there was this fella in there named Otis. And Otis used to say a lot. He would sit in this big wingback chair. He had his ashtray, his special coffee mug, and he would say, when you're in a meeting, your disease is in the parking lot doing push-ups, And that was another one that took me a long time to understand what that meant. I always felt that to mean, as you're recover, like when you go back in, people say also, like when you go back from a relapse, it gets harder. And I always minimalize that down to the cravings get harder. It gets harder to get back into recovery. What I didn't realize is that the disease gets smarter. It gets more cunning, more baffling, comes at you in different ways. As you mature and as you become quote unquote smarter in the program, so does the disease. And so coming back for me was not about cravings. It was about the disease talking to me in a way that it never did when I got sober the first time, which is what I understand it to mean got too sober too quick or gets harder to come back in, is that now I was confronted with really dark thoughts, really dark shit that I never really had before. Even in my first round of using, I didn't have suicidal thoughts. I was just partying.
When did the suicide ideation pop up?
Well, it wasn't even that I ever thought of harming myself, but it was thoughts like, what am I doing here? Why am I here? Or, man, if I ever get cancer, I'm really going to consider not taking treatment and just checking out. And there's a perfectly honorable reason to leave this earth, And so it wasn't that I ever really considered harming myself, but the darkness of the thoughts would quickly, that's how I understand. I feel like I understand why people choose that. I've seen that road. I've looked down it now. And that is something that I wasn't privy to in my first story of using or my first round of recovery. I never saw that road. And now I've looked at it. I haven't walked down it, but I can see it, and I can really appreciate. Maybe that's not the right word. I have an empathy that I did not have before for people that choose that as a way to stop the pain, which is all self-inflicted, right? It's all created in my mind. So that's been a big, lesson or an eye-opener for me about what it means for your disease to mature as you continue on your recovery, and how, relapse opened my eyes to something that I just didn't have before, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you talk about, some of the thoughts and stuff that you had, and the voices that your disease, had, what were some of the other voices that you heard aside from that? Are there any, or was it mainly that?
It was more of this unstoppable train of thought. I look at it like if you're watching CNBC, right? And they have the ticker tape running across the bottom, right? In my first round of recovery, I started really reading all of the self-help books, Eckhart Tolle, Marianne Williamson, A Course in Miracles, and studying all of that. And for me, using it as a substitute for going to meetings, because I was like, I'm sick of this. I'll do the steps. I'll do the sponsorship. I'll do da-da-da-da-da-da, but I'm not going to meetings anymore. I'm tired of it. I'm sick of hearing it. I'm sick of seeing these people. And that in itself is an example of how that negativity starts.
Yeah.
And how that dialogue with your disease starts. Because you start giving yourself permission to not work a program and start substituting in like going to the gym, career.
Yeah.
And then reading all the self-help books and studying, which has its place, right? But for me, I have found that all of those things grow better in the soil of going to meetings and being connected to a group, which, you know, I had to learn that lesson the hard way. Yeah.
That was so good. We're going to have to clip that one. That was so good.
Yeah.
It made so much sense.
Yeah. Because of the too sober, too quick,
Yeah.
there was never a struggle for me. I didn't understand. I heard what people were saying by white knuckle sobriety. Like I heard it, but I didn't get it. You know, I didn't understand what that meant other than hearing people talk about it in meetings.
And knowing it's not you.
And knowing it's not me.
Yeah, it
and
doesn't
then
apply.
adding that to the list of ways that I could separate myself from those people. And, you know, building up this identity of I can do this by myself. I don't need this. It was great, you know, but I'm different. I'm unique. I am terminally unique. And that was another one that I really got acquainted with. And yeah, I mean, it took me getting my ass kicked emotionally, spiritually, physically, to really start to understand those things. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a very similar story. I got sober one time in 1999, stayed sober for like 3.5, 4 years, and it was just rosy. It was just, it was hard going through treatment and getting through the treatment. Once I did, I just went to some meetings and hung out with a bunch of sober people, and it was really easy. I didn't have to really work hard for it. And then I moved away, was a counselor at a Christian youth camp, and stopped talking about Alcoholics Anonymous, stopped talking about recovery, and I was using within 6 weeks.
Right.
And it was bad.
Right.
It took me, a decade to get back. So
Right.
I totally get it. Like, just maybe, I don't know if it's not putting in the effort up front. It just can't, like you said, it just came easy. There wasn't a reason to really put a lot of effort in because it was just happening. It was like, it's gone. I don't want to use recovery as rocks, but I just didn't do the reps. I just didn't do it.
Exactly.
So I'm a lot like that. When I came back this time, it was like, all right, slow down, sit down, get involved with the group.
Right.
And it was uncomfortable, but I'm so glad I put in that time now.
Sure.
Because now I have that fellowship. Now
That's
I
right.
have some real good stuff. So 5 years you were sober, and then what?
No, 12 years.
12 years.
12 years.
Wow.
I had a friend of mine, a guy during COVID. I was in a Zoom meeting with a friend of mine from New York who had moved to New Hampshire, and they had a small group that they invited me to. And one of the guys called it a dialogue with the disease, right? Where you start making deals, you start making deals with the devil. You start making compromises. You start negotiating. And of course, I didn't have the language for that at the time, but, getting sober the first time, I'd always said, well, I'm going to stay sober, but if I'm ever in Amsterdam,
Yeah.
I mean, it's Amsterdam, right? Never thinking that I would ultimately live in Europe and that Amsterdam would be a train ride away, right? Like that never entered my conscious, like it was never something that I considered.
Yeah.
And then on a beautiful April day, I'm on a train to Amsterdam, and I made that deal with my disease. I was like, if the opportunity presents itself, which please.
You had that relapse on right away, dog. Yeah.
Of course the opportunity is going to present itself, right?
Yeah.
Darn.
Right. And I was like, yeah,
Here I am.
that's, I made that deal. I was like, if it presents itself, I'm going to give myself permission to consider it, right? And I did. I was in a coffee shop with a friend. We ate a piece of what we called space cake. And after I got back to Berlin, I had a kid on a bike delivering weed to my door within 10 days, and that started the first relapse. And that one was about 5 months. But that's where that dark thinking really started. And it was for me, kind of terrifying because, like I said, I'd never had that before.
Yeah.
You know, I'd been a classic overthinker, of course, and being in the performing arts, perfectionism, anxiety about being on stage, about things not being perfect, about, you know, I grew up that way, holding myself to a very high standard. And when I didn't meet it by what I considered meeting that high standard, there was like the self-flogging that went on, you know, after coming off stage. And that, like, I mean, you talk about the disease maturing and coming at you in a direction that was brand new. That's what it was. It was awful, awful.
When did you start performing?
I started, I had a very good relationship with church growing up. Church for me was a safe space, actually.
Good. Should be.
A lot of people in the gay community had horror stories with church, and I was very fortunate that was not part of mine. My mother's a classically trained pianist, so I grew up with music in the house. I grew up singing in the church choirs as a kid.
Singing right.
Yeah.
There's a difference when we just, everybody Sunday morning thinks they can sing.
Right. But
Yeah.
I did it. It was a very nurturing environment, and again, a safe space.
Yeah.
Like that was where I sort of flourished in that atmosphere. And then and I was also very fortunate that all the way through my church life, I was in churches that had fabulous music programs. You know, on Sundays, we'd sometimes sing Mozart, Beethoven, Fauré, Vivaldi, you know, and very classically based choral music.
Mm-hmm.
And I fell in love with that. And of course, at home, my mother was always playing, but, you know, certainly on Sunday mornings, she's playing and getting ready for service. And I started singing with the adults when I was a freshman in high school. And youth choir, bell choir, you know, selected ensembles. And then when I went to Hines, I majored in music. And it took me getting sober the first time to actually finish that degree. But I've been singing since I was a kid. Yeah.
And that's what you were doing in Berlin?
Right.
Okay.
Right. I got sober in 2006. 2007, I went back to MC, Mississippi College, and I finished my degree there. And then I got invited into a studio in New York. So I moved to New York after that, and I got my master's. And then from there, I went to Berlin and didn't really have a plan other than, you know, moved there. I had 2 suitcases and an idea, and I moved there and just started auditioning.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Sprechen Sie Deutsch?
Ein bisschen Deutsch. Es ist
Just did
schlecht.
it.
Yeah. I'd had some German in college. So I had very basic conversational.
Yeah.
And by that, I mean, I could go into a restaurant and order, you know. But I'd been singing in German, French, Russian, Latin since I was a kid. So the language itself was not totally foreign to me. I had a working understanding of it. But did I speak German when I moved there? No. But I moved there, and it took about 18 months, and I finally landed a full-time chorus position in one of the 3 major houses in Berlin.
Wow.
So I guess in a major metropolitan like that,
Yeah.
I guess Berlin, that's
Yeah.
pretty common. You probably have a lot of people who are coming in.
Oh, yeah.
And this isn't, like, you're not showing up in Jackson trying to make it in
Right.
the opera world.
Right.
But they're-
And
yeah.
And one of the good things about moving to Berlin at that time is the arts are wildly supported there. You know, I mean, it's mind-blowing what they have in that city. Like 3 major opera houses, 2 major ballet companies, like 9 or 11 professional orchestras, you know, and then countless like galleries, museums. And then there's the whole underground scene, which, you know,
Can't imagine.
oh my
Yeah.
God, you know, talk about, I mean, being
Yeah.
exposed to things that I still can't wrap my mind around some of it, but it's very supported. So the whole visa process for somebody like me was pretty easy. You know, I had a lot of anxiety about going into the immigration office, but, you know, walked out with a 3-year freelance visa. I couldn't work unless it was in my field. And, you know, finding under the table, you know, what they call Schwarzgeld, black money, which is under the cash pay, is hard. But I gigged here and there, and I actually cleaned some apartments towards the end when my savings were running out. But finally landed that gig at the Stotts. So, and I was there for 5 seasons.
Wow.
Yeah.
And during those seasons, you were sober, smoking weed?
I didn't smoke until close to the end. I'd probably been in the house 4 years. I think it was in my last year there that I tried unsuccessfully the marijuana maintenance program.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're probably like, he's singing kind of slow.
Yeah, listen. It was a sweet job, but I did not go to work high. I did that one time, and that 3-hour rehearsal felt like I was like, I'm gonna die here. You know, I really thought it was a staging rehearsal, and I was like, I'm not gonna make it through this.
Yeah.
I will not do this again. So I smoked at night, and when I had like days off, so I didn't wake and bake when I was there because I couldn't do it. But still, even with managing it, even to that extent, it was still like horrible. So then I got sober again in Berlin, got with a new sponsor, started working the steps, and then made the decision to leave that job and move back. And I moved back a month before the lockdown. Thank God.
Wow.
Right. And then stayed sober, I think, for 4 years, and then tried the marijuana maintenance program again because of, you know, nothing changed. Nothing changed when I got sober the first time. You know, I still had that feeling that I could do this on my own, that I didn't need AA, and of course, COVID gave me a perfect excuse to not do that. Even when things started to open back up, I was like, nope, not doing that. I'll keep doing this once a week Zoom meeting in New Hampshire with these guys, but you know, so I tried it again. This time I stayed out for 18 months. It was bad. It was play by play, just like the first relapse, just longer. Same dark thoughts, same, you know, and that time when I came back, I was like, I got to take the playbook, throw it away, and I have to do this different, or I'm going to get the same result that I did before. So I have made a lot of changes in getting sober this time, as opposed to my second recovery. Yeah.
What looks different this time?
Meeting attendance. Meeting more than anything else is showing up. Before it was like, sun's out, it's a beautiful day, I'm not going to go to a meeting. It's raining, I don't want to go to a meeting. It's hot, I'm not going to a meeting.
Windy.
It's cold, I'm hungry, I'm sleepy. You know, I would use any excuse I could think of to justify not going, and I don't do that. So far, 2 years and some change into it, I have not done that. Now, 100% perfection on that? No. I mean, there have been some days where I'm just gassed and I make the decision not to, but far more often than not, I go and I show up, and I've gotten involved in 2 specific groups. I know people there. Whether I'm accountable or not, I have the feeling that there are people that are paying attention, you know, that miss me and that I miss seeing. So that's been the biggest change right there.
Yeah.
Getting a new sponsor, going through the steps again, not leaving anything out to, you know, just.
Yeah, I was going to ask, did you do them more intensely? Did you do them more honestly? I
don't think that my step work was in any way lacking the first 2 recoveries. I think to the best of my knowledge, I did them well, you know? And the last round of step work that I did was really concentrated on, had a lot of concentration of behaviors in sobriety, not so much in the relapse. I mean, there was some self-forgiveness that I had to do surrounding the relapses, of course, but it was more so about sobriety-related, like, defects, you know? So I don't think that I left anything out intentionally. There's really nothing in my past that was so traumatizing that I didn't feel like it needed to be included, you know, or that shame took over and I refused. But there have been some things that have come out and I'm like, damn, wow, where was that?
Yeah.
You know? But it went down on paper and it went into that 5th step.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So if you could point to anything that maybe would have been lacking, like what did the 12th step look like for you at those times?
In the and the first and second recovery, there was no 12th step. I was not carrying. I wasn't getting involved. You know, that whole thing of in order to keep it, you have to give it away. I didn't give shit away. Yeah, I kept it all to myself. You know? And not necessarily intentionally, but just in my inability or lack of desire to.
Well, it doesn't make any
connect.
sense. It
Right.
doesn't make any sense. It's sitting with some guy you don't know,
Right.
And
Right.
reading to something 62, 63 out of
Right.
and like, yeah, we're talking about like it doesn't. That's counterintuitive.
Sure.
Like, no, I need to go to work.
Right.
I need to go make some money.
Right.
Like, I got to do this. This
Right.
is what's going to give me stability.
One of the things that's really looked different to that point is showing up early for meetings and not being the first one out the door when it's over. You know, that the meeting attendance, yes, but also allowing people to get to know me and allowing people in on my side. You know, I got burned a little bit in a situation with my first home group, and from that day on, I really kept people at an arm's length. You know, and I'm still a little bit standoffish. Like I don't. It's not automatic for me to really get to know everybody and to let everybody get to know me. And I don't really see that as a liability because I am making an effort to do better about that and to be seen and to show up and to have those conversations with people. And if someone invites me to dinner, say yes, right? Where before I'd be like, oh, you know,
Where do you want to go? Tell me.
Yeah. So that's the thing that for me looks.
That's a big, that first few minutes before the meeting, the first few minutes after.
Right.
I mean, that's a change that I made in my, in this recovery. And it was so difficult, but hearing people in the room saying like, it matters if you do this.
Right.
I'm like, all right, well, this guy's been sober since 89, so he knows what he's talking about.
Right.
And even though it's uncomfortable and, you know, I say things like, people say like, hey, how are you doing? And I'm like, you too. Wait, you know what I mean? I'm so bad at it. It matters.
Yeah. I get it. And my very first sponsor was this lady from McGee, right? And I met her when I was working for Region 8 around 2. I worked there. I worked at Region 8 for about 4 years.
Really?
In the inpatient facility in Mendenhall. And we would drive clients to McGee for meetings. And I met this wonderful lady. She's no longer with us, but her name was Weesey. And just real talk, plain spoken. I mean, she could call it, she just had a way of delivering anything, right? And I immediately knew when I started hearing her share, I was like, that's who my sponsor needs to be, right? And she was wonderful. But she used to say a lot of things, but one of those was baby. She either called me baby or JJ, right? Baby. Most often baby. Baby, I have seen a lot of people that were too smart for this program, but I ain't ever met anybody too dumb for it. And I was too smart. You know, that first 12 years, I was too smart.
Yeah.
And that was another one of those sayings that really clicked with me years later is I was like, okay, that's what Weesey was talking about.
Yeah.
You know,
I
she
like
was
that.
a gem.
Yeah.
I miss her. I think about her all the time, every day probably. Yeah, because there's all these little things that she used to say that pop out every now and then, and that was one of them. You know, she just made a lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and that's the joy. That's one of the things that I really robbed myself of the first go round.
There's real relationships.
Exactly. And, you know, allowing people like we see. And, you know, I've thought of a lot of missed opportunities over the years for me to have gotten to know more people like that, that really say things that resonate. And it's not that I haven't been paying attention, but it's like thinking back to stuff my grandmother used to say, how I wish that I had written it down, you know, and now for me, this is an opportunity to like write those things down, to pay attention to it, to not judge it, but to label it with, okay, I don't understand what the hell he's talking about, which means I'm not there yet. So we're gonna file that, and one day that's gonna make sense to me.
Yeah.
You know, and that has been a huge, like a real joy in getting sober this time is really holding on with both hands, you know, getting your butt in the seat and really paying attention to what people have to say. Yeah.
So you're doing some work with one of my favorite, Zach Thompson,
Yes.
his new place, Center
Yes.
Space, where he's doing multimodality therapy stuff. He's doing a lot of cool things, but you're an instructor, you're a participant in one of the classes that I think my wife's been to.
Yeah.
But tell us a little bit about what that work is and why you're into it.
So it's this weird convergence of sort of three different worlds that I kind of am in and out of. One of those is, like I mentioned before, reading all of these self-help books, right? Eckhart Tolle has really resonated with me over the years. And one of the examples that he uses about mindfulness, or as he says, mindlessness in presence, is like, I think it was an example in The Power of Now. It may have been A New Earth, but I think it was The Power of Now, where about being present, being in the moment, which for me means turning off the noise in my head. And, you know, if you're looking at a flower, if you're observing the flower, if you're observing the color of the petals, the stem, the leaves, you can't be focused on your grocery list and also be like inventorying the flower at the same time.
Right.
Right. And so where I have found, because since leaving opera, I started personal training. And I used to think, because when I got sober in 2006, the first time I really got involved in fitness, right? And I used to think that singing was in this lane, fitness was in this lane. They're running parallel, but they don't ever really cross, right? And for years, I kind of had that, you know, I mean, I looked at fitness as a means to an aesthetic that these days is important for stagecraft and production, right? Look a certain way, be fit, you know, take care of yourself, makes you more marketable, blah, blah, blah. Excuse me. So then when I left opera and I started training people, I started to realize there was so much crossover between my opera training, the coaching, the postural work, the body awareness work, the breathing work that I did as an opera singer. And I was using a lot of the language that had been used with me by teachers and coaches over the years. So to get people to correct form, to move a certain way, to move with a certain efficiency, in the gym environment, I was using language that, you know, was from the voice studio, right? And I was like, okay, all right. And then the other world is posture. which is very much tied to the movement and the body awareness of singing and the breath work. But starting to see posture as sort of the umbrella under which all of this other stuff falls. And then the world of tole and mindlessness and getting into your body and meditation. And then I found by accident one day in Kroger how mindlessness and meditation for me can happen with taking my attention out of the chaos in front of me at the self-checkout line and getting into my neck. What is your neck doing? What are your shoulders doing? Where's your breath right now? Right? Which is all stuff that I would get in voice lessons and in coachings and Alexander technique lessons and even Reiki, right? And so what I'm doing in Zach's studio is just sort of tripping my way through it. I've never done it in a class setting, right? So I'm figuring that out. I've only done it with one-on-one people. And in the gym environment, it ain't for everybody, and I tell people from the beginning, your first session is free. This is my approach to personal training. If you're not into it, you're not going to hurt my feelings by walking away. I don't want to train you if you don't want to be, or at least open to be trained this way. Right. So that's what I'm doing at Zach's is really mindlessness, getting into your body by way of postural awareness. And then from that, finding efficiency in movement. Does that?
Oh man. Okay. Tell me. So what does that look like in class? Like, what are you doing?
Okay. So disclaimer here is that I am not an Alexander technique certified instructor.
Oh, well, then I'm out.
Okay. I always give people that out of respect for the people that have put in the 3 years of work that it takes to get certified.
Wow. Yeah.
3 years. It's like another degree. But I've been working with it since the 90s as a singer and in stagecraft. And boiling it down, it's all about returning your body to the posture that we're all born with, right? I was in an Alexander lesson in New York, and when we left that night, the instructor said, when y'all walk to the subway tonight, don't get on the least crowded subway car, which is what New Yorkers do, right? You get to the one that's going to stop closest to your exit or the one with the least amount of people on it, right?
Yeah.
That's the New York way. Get on the one that's got the most people and observe the postures of the adults and observe the postures of the children, right? Don't judge it. Don't critique it. Don't think this person should be this way or this person should be that way. Just observe what you see, and when you come back for the next class, we'll talk about it. And we get on the train, and it was packed. And the people that were seated that were fortunate enough to have seats, some of them were sitting in a very balanced, aligned posture. Most of them were all bent over, elbows on their knees. If they were standing up, they were leaning against the wall, all manner of what in the Alexander technique is called like abuse of the body, malalignments, right? Maladjustments. There were 7 children on that train. They were all seated, and every single one of them was sitting in a perfectly balanced position, lengthened spine, balanced front to back. Even if their little feet were not touching the floor, it was still a perfect poise. And so to Alexander's point, we're all born with it. Then life gets in the way. And as they say, life be lifing. And we start to add on these postures, these movements to our functions that are totally unnecessary. It just becomes muscle memory, right? And so his teaching is about returning the body to that, what we were born with, and getting rid of, the stuff that we've added on over the years that's just not necessary. Sedentary lifestyles, sitting at a desk all day, of course, nowadays it's text neck, looking down at our phones constantly.
Dude, I got that when COVID came because I was always on my phone for like a year. It was like, it was so bad.
Right.
Yeah.
And so one-on-one with clients, I work a lot on that. Where's your neck right now?
Yeah.
Where are your shoulders right now? What are your hips doing? And how quickly it is that we can, find that freedom in the movement, and then immediately we go back into the muscle memory. Mm-hmm. But that's the whole point, is that we develop an awareness for when we've come out of it, so that we know that we've come out of it, and we can go back into that freedom of poise. And then a minute or two later, we check in, and it's like, well, my shoulders are up by my ears again.
Mine are always up by my ears.
Right. What's that about? Because I'll be riding around and I'd be like, dude, calm the fuck down, man.
Right.
Like, and you're not about to tackle anybody.
Right.
Like, I'm all like,
me too.
It doesn't make any sense.
The body holds on to things.
Yeah.
For me, one example of this is when I was in, I think it was 7th grade, I began to realize I was not like the other boys, but it seemed like everybody else was more aware of it than me, So I didn't have a lot of bullying growing up. I wouldn't call it bullying, but there was some teasing about being sort of effeminate, Plus I was a music kid. I was in the band and the choir. I didn't do the whole sports thing.
It was all piled against you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so I was an office worker in my 7th grade year, which meant I had to go to all the classrooms in first period and get the absentees, right? And 90% of the teachers would leave the absentee outside the door, which for me was a dream because I didn't have to walk into that classroom in front of those other kids, exposing myself to the teasing, which happened regularly, right? And so in an effort to get in and out of that room as fast as I could, I would walk fast. And with the walking fast, I developed this forward lean in my walk, right? And it wasn't until later that someone brought it to my attention. And it took me doing this posture work to understand that in an effort to avoid the teasing, which for me was a kind of trauma, that's the way my body responded to it. It's a protection. Right? My body was protecting me in its own way from opening myself up to that teasing, right? And so I had to work on pulling myself back and avoiding that temptation to lean. I mean, that's just an example. But our bodies do that. It's their way of protecting it. And one thing that one of my Alexander teachers in New York used to say all the time is, when you feel your shoulders raising, when you feel your back arching, when you feel yourself forward leaning, thank your body. Say, thank you. I'm not doing that right now. That doesn't work for me anymore. That doesn't serve me anymore. And then, of course, we mess it up again and we go right back into that muscle memory. But the important thing about it is to start building that awareness and knowing my shoulders are up around my ears. Thank your body. Let them come down. And then 5 minutes, 30 minutes later, here they go again. Bring them back down. It's just a matter of, going back into the muscle memory and then adjusting. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. So in class, is someone's, paying attention to their neck. And then what else you got going on in there?
We talk about, for Alexander's teaching, it all started with the neck, right? Freedom in the neck, not relaxing the neck, but allowing the neck to be as it was designed to be. Because the body's designed to do a lot of things that we feel like we need to help it along, right? It's one of those things you see bodybuilders doing a bench press, and all of this is, it's not necessary. It's necessary in your mind, but to perform a successful bench press, you don't need to be doing that, right?
Get that chin in there,
right. You don't need to be doing that. It's totally unnecessary, and it's burning energy that's not helping you, right? And then, for instance, here's your spine. The head fits right there on top of the spine, right? And it's designed to balance there perfectly. The body knows exactly which musculature to activate to keep your head in that balanced position. We don't have to help our heads to stay in place. We don't have to do this, or engage in anything that's totally unnecessary for our head to stay in place. The body does it itself. But, with text neck, forward lean walking, all of this stuff, sitting at a computer all day and our chins start jutting out and our heads all of this stuff, this is just muscle memory. It's not necessary for our head to be in a balanced, free position. And so for his work, it all starts there. And everything is under that umbrella of a free neck. So in those classes, we talk about, finding the free neck. And, it's not a sprint. It's a marathon. It takes practice. It's like recovery. It takes practice. Going to the gym, it takes practice. Being a singer takes practice. Whatever, cycling, it's a practice. You get better at it. It just takes awareness and paying attention to what the body's doing. And one of the things that I have found for my own search for anxiety reduction is to get into my neck. What's my neck doing? That's what happened in that day in Kroger. I was in there. I had procrastinated all week. I had a family thing. I do not go to Kroger on the weekends unless it is absolutely necessary. Excuse me. And I of course, I had probably 12 opportunities to go to Kroger that week to get what I needed to get for this family meal, and I didn't do it. So there I am in Kroger on a Saturday afternoon, standing in the self-checkout line with all the lights blinking, the line stretched into the frozen foods. And I was furious. I was pissed off at what was going on in front of me and pissed off at myself for putting it off on the Tuesday morning that I could have gone when nobody's in there, right? And so I could feel my body collapsing downward in anger, right? My shoulders were rounding forward. I was stooping. My hips were tucked. My pelvis was, it was in that collapse.
That jutting pelvis, man. Y'all look out for that every time. It'll get me, man.
It has its place, right? Hey. Depends on where you are. Right? So, I don't know what made me do this, but I was like, allow your neck to be free. And I got into my neck. I lengthened my spine. I started thinking, all right, this is the tallest I've ever been right here in Kroger on this Saturday afternoon. This is the tallest I've ever been. I'm going to allow myself to be the tallest I've ever been. And by doing that, I took this out of the chaos that was going on in front of me and out of that rage that was going on inside me for procrastinating. And it went away. And I was like, okay. So for me in that moment, that was an example of Eckhart Tolle's thing with talking about the flower. Being present for me in that moment meant getting into my body, not looking at a flower, but going into like the freedom of the neck. What were my shoulders doing? What's your back doing? What's your pelvis doing? What are your knees doing? Where are your feet right now? And I was like, okay, all right, so I'm on to something with that personally. And really what I'm doing at Zach's is trying to find ways not only to incorporate efficiency of movement, but anxiety reduction, or a form of it. And it's not for everybody, and I get that. It seems a little esoteric sometimes, but for me and for people that, are open to it, for me, it's been a game changer, and I've had some feedback from others where it's made a difference. And that's really cool, because I just happened upon it. It was one of those moments where all of these worlds converged in a Kroger line. And I was like, okay. Maybe there's something to this other than putting those worlds into action in a gym setting. So For me, it's been good, and it's not always successful. I mean, I got road rage as much as the next person. I cannot wrap my mind around what some people do even in parking lots, not to mention the highway. But more often than not, if I can get into my neck and start to allow my spine to lengthen and for my shoulders to settle, it takes a lot of the poison out of the rage that's in here, not out there. You know, it's all going in here. It's narratives that I created, and it helps with those dark thoughts that I talked about earlier. You know, because I'll tell you, cleaning up the mess from this last relapse for me has been significant.
Yeah.
Yeah. And hell, I'll grab onto anything I can to help with that. And if it's something as simple as paying attention to what my neck is doing, I'll take it. So, yeah, does that answer your question?
Yeah.
I think I maybe have gone around the world to get to it, but
I enjoyed the trip.
yeah. But that's sort of the meat of it. Yeah.
We see that, don't we see that so often in the recovery space where just people are coming in, shoulders down, head down, not looking the world in the eye. I mean, not even talking. Kind of a month later, you kind of see them kind of poking their head up. You run into them a year later, and just like completely different person.
Yes.
I mean, just posture, how they carry themselves, how they articulate, everything they do is just like, whoa, that's a different dude.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And sometimes recovery does that for you. It's not that you've taken a class on posture. It's sort of automatic with a lot of it, where for me it becomes efficiency of movement, you know, where we can accomplish tasks both in the gym setting and like working in the yard, picking up something heavy and picking up the right way, you know, reaching up to do something and doing it an efficient way. So it kind of bleeds into a lot of things for me. So I'm still figuring out the sweet spot of, you know, the way I explain it without it sounding so esoteric and like, I'm not a singer. What do I need to do with this? Right. But one of the examples I use is, you know, if you walk into a crowded room and you have immediate anxiety from walking into a room full of people you either know or don't know, and you don't want to walk in front of how many people won't get up and go to the bathroom in an AA meeting because they don't want to walk in front of people.
Hold it, dude.
Right.
I do.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, for me, it's like, well, people are going to look at you either way, so you might as well stand up straight. You know,
somebody sharing? I'm not going to.
Well, that's probably a respect thing and less about, you know, but, you know, why not stand up straight? You know, having an apologetic posture is not going to take attention away from you.
That's so true.
You know, it's not. People are going to, like, nobody's judging you, but, you know, why not stand up straight when you're walking in and exiting a room?
Let me tell you, I must have had a guilty posture growing up because my mom always knew I had done something wrong. I would walk into a room and she'd be like, what'd you do?
Right.
She'd be like, well, I liar. Go look in that mirror and tell me that you didn't do anything.
I don't know. The chances of that one are probably always pretty high.
Always did something. Oh, she knew.
Yeah. But then you, like, with an opera example, you know, there was this famous singer from Laurel, Leontine Price, whose career began, I think, in the 20s, 30s. She was one of the first African-American opera singers to sing at the Met, if not the first. I think maybe she was the second. Don't quote me on that. Erase this from the track if I'm wrong. I should know that for sure. But she made a huge career. She was a tiny woman, you know, in stature. But when she walked on stage, nobody else existed. She just radiated this energy from her body. It was just coming out of her chest. Like it's almost like you can see it, you know? And now, like when I walk into a room or when I walk on stage, which is rare these days, but I'm thinking, Leontine Price this shit, and I'm going to walk in there and I'm going to be as tall as I've ever been. And for me, it's an anxiety reduction. It is. And it changes my energy, which means it's changing the energy that people are getting from me. Right. And for me, that's been important.
Yeah.
You know, I kind of wish that I had tiptoed into some of this stuff when I was actually auditioning and, you know, was walking into these rooms of judges who were ready to pick you to pieces, you know, but it all, I guess it all came together when it was supposed to.
Yeah.
But all of this for me came from my music training.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or really, that was the genesis of it. So.
Do you sing anymore? You said rarely.
Rarely. Very little solo work. I took a church gig, a church choir gig, and I have enjoyed that. It's a great congregation. It's a great group of people. They do really good music. It's an open congregation. I don't have to worry about, you know, being shamed from the pulpit for being gay. It's not that. And it's very, very, very much like the kind of church that I grew up with. Great music, great people. I don't hear anything about being gay. It's not that. But I left my opera career in Germany. I walked away from it the right way. I don't have a desire to do that anymore. I don't miss it. I really thought at one point maybe from the overthinking Jay is going to be like, you're going to get back to Mississippi and be like, what did I do? Why did I do? Because I had a great gig over there. But I haven't missed it at all. And I haven't second guessed that decision to move in the least. You know, there are things that I miss about it. I shared the stage with people that are legends in classical music. I heard some of just, if you're going to call it the voice of God, I heard some of that on that stage. You know, if you feel like music speaking to you from the divine or as the divine, I heard that there. Heard some shit too. Like, I mean, some of those you walk like, how did you get that job? Right? What the hell? What have I been doing wrong? Right? But some of the most incredible moments of music of my life were on that stage. But you know, I made the decision the right way. It was very thought out. It was not made in haste. I haven't really looked back, and I have zero desire to ever audition for anything again. I don't want to do it. You know, I was invited to audition for something at New Stage, which is a wonderful program. They do fabulous work there, but I was like, not doing it.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I have not had an itch to do that since I left Europe. And quite frankly, I had made the decision when I got that job that I got. I made the decision before I did it. This is my last audition. If I get this job, great. If I don't, I'm going back to the States with my head held high, knowing that I went over there, no stone unturned. I did my best. You know, no regrets, but it didn't work out. And I got the job, right? It just turned out that I did. And it was great. But I feel like that was my last audition in 2015. I just have no desire to do it again. And I don't miss it. I enjoy the church choir thing. I'm in a program that they had a need, and I felt like this is a really good way that I can give back to something that was monumental in my development as a musician and really helped me get where I got. Right? It was all born in church. It was all born in sacred music. And I feel like it's a good way for me to give back to something that gave me a lot. So I mean, don't get me wrong, there's some Wednesday nights where I'm like, I got to do a 2-hour rehearsal now. Where am I going to find the energy to do this? But it's a good situation, and I've enjoyed it.
Good.
But that's it. That's all this. And I'll listen. If somebody comes and they're like, Aunt Gretchen died, we need you to do the funeral. you know, I'm like, okay, if Aunt Gretchen was,
You got to do it for Aunt Gretchen.
yeah,
You know.
No, I'll do a wedding, but you're gonna have to get your checkbook ready. Yeah, that's one that can easily say no to.
Yeah.
But funerals, I'm happy to do stuff like that.
You're not gonna like the number. You're not gonna like.
You're not gonna like it. Hey, it's gonna cost. But I don't know. It's something that I did it.
Mm-hmm.
I did what I moved over there to do. The culmination of the work that for me started way before I got sober the first time ended there, and I'm proud of what I was able to accomplish. But when I walked away from it, I walked away from it. Yeah.
So these days it's fitness and recovery.
Fitness and recovery and church choir.
And church choir.
Yeah.
And tractor.
And tractors.
Yeah.
And tractors. I am a farm boy at heart.
Yeah.
My family's got some land about an hour from here, and it is my favorite place in the world.
Well, my husband would love to hunt it.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Let me get your card.
Yeah.
Jay, I'm pumped that you're able to come in and hang out with us, man. I just love having you in our community.
Oh, I'm
you
grateful.
left for a little while, and I was heartbroken. You sold the house and came back and were able to get back into the whole scene, the same house, everything. God's opened some doors, but I'm just glad to have you back in, because when I bump into you, it's just like,
thank you.
I feel like you do about that singer from Laurel, just explodes with energy. When I see you, I'm just like, oh man, there's Jay Carr.
That's really nice.
So it's
David.
just, I'm just glad you're here and back. Yeah.
I'm grateful to be here. I'm grateful for your friendship. We're always grateful to see you. And I'm grateful to be back in Mississippi. I did a little experiment last year that did not work out.
Come back on and talk about the Hamptons.
Yeah,
if you want.
That's another episode. But it was something I needed to try, and again, I left that situation the right way, and I moved back here, and honestly, I was like, how fast can I get back to Mississippi?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm grateful to be home.
We are more that you're back.
Thank you.
So thank you.
Thank you.
Well, guys, see you next week.
All right.
Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks for having me.